Bullies don't realize that the girl they are bullying is a martial arts expert. Brooke Mitchell stood in front of Hollowbrook High's imposing entrance, taking in the scene with eyes that missed nothing. Students streamed past her, laughing and talking, completely unaware of her purpose. At 5 feet 4 inches with a slight build, oversized glasses, and shoulders hunched as if to make herself even smaller, she looked exactly like what she was pretending to be, an awkward, insecure new student. No one would guess that beneath her carefully crafted exterior was a highly trained operative who could take down armed men twice her size without breaking a sweat. "Testing comms," she whispered, barely moving her lips as she adjusted her backpack strap. "Do you copy?" "Loud and clear, Mitchell." Her handler, Agent Davis, responded through the nearly invisible earpiece. "Remember your objectives. Maintain cover at all costs. Shadow the target. Report any suspicious activity." Brooke gave a slight nod, though no one was watching. "Copy that." She took a deep breath and stepped into the flow of students, already scanning for her assignment. Olivia, Liv, Carter, daughter of James Carter, billionaire founder of Carter Technologies. The man who'd been receiving increasingly specific death threats against his family from the Vetrov criminal organization. Finding Liv proved easy enough. The girl arrived in a nondescript Honda, part of her father's attempt at normalcy, but there was nothing ordinary about Liv herself. Tall, athletic, with an easy confidence as she greeted friends in the parking lot, Liv was everything Brooke's cover identity wasn't: popular, self-assured, and surrounded by people. Perfect. The last thing Brooke needed was for her target to take an interest in her. Distance was good. Distance was safe. "Target acquired," she murmured, keeping Liv in her peripheral vision as she navigated toward the administrative office to finalize her transfer student paperwork. She was so focused on maintaining visual contact with Liv that she didn't notice the group of students until she collided with one of them. "Watch where you're going, freak!" A sharp voice cut through the hallway chatter. Brooke could have easily avoided the collision. Her reflexes were honed to perfection, but that would have broken character. Instead, she let herself stumble backward, books tumbling from her arms in a display of clumsiness that made her cringe inside. The girl who'd spoken stood with arms crossed, lip curled in disdain. Tall, blonde, wearing clothes that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, everything about her screamed apex predator in the high school ecosystem. "I'm sorry," Brooke mumbled, her voice a practiced whisper as she knelt to gather her scattered books. Her actual instinct was to maintain eye contact, assert dominance, but that wasn't why she was here. "You should be," the girl said, making no move to help. Her friends snickered behind her. "Are you blind or just stupid?" Years of training in the most hostile environments on Earth had prepared Brooke for many things, but somehow the calculated cruelty of teenage girls still managed to cut. Not that she'd show it. "Just not paying attention," Brooke replied, eyes fixed on the floor. "It won't happen again." The blonde girl's perfect eyebrow arched. "No, it won't." She deliberately stepped on Brooke's physics textbook before walking away, her friends trailing behind like an entourage. "Welcome to Hollowbrook, loser!" Their laughter echoed down the hallway. Brooke noted with professional detachment that several students had witnessed the encounter, some looking sympathetic, others simply relieved they weren't the target. Among them was Liv Carter, watching with a slight frown from beside her locker. "Well, that was certainly subtle, Mitchell," Davis's dry voice commented in her ear. "Making friends already, I see." "Establishing cover," Brooke muttered as she finally collected her books and continued toward the office. Nobody pays attention to the girl everyone picks on. By lunchtime, Brooke had identified the blonde girl as Rachel Whitmore, unofficial queen of Hollowbrook High. Daughter of a state senator, captain of the debate team, and dating the star quarterback, she wielded her social power with the precision of a surgeon and the mercy of an executioner. Her inner circle consisted of Mackenzie Reeves, track team star, Jade Park, social media influencer with 50,000 followers, and Tyler Johnson, the aforementioned quarterback, who seemed to enjoy Rachel's mean streak a little too much. More importantly, Brooke had mapped the school layout, identified all exits, noted potential security vulnerabilities, and calculated optimal surveillance positions for keeping an eye on Liv while maintaining distance. She'd also hacked into the school's system and arranged to share 3 classes with her target. "How's our girl doing?" Davis asked during a bathroom break, when Brooke could speak more freely. "Target seems well adjusted. Popular but not exclusive. Participates in class discussions. Has a wide social circle but no boyfriend that I can detect. Security conscious but not paranoid. And she has no idea who you are?" "None," Brooke confirmed, checking beneath bathroom stalls to ensure she was alone. "She's noticed me, but only as a curiosity. New girl getting bullied, nothing worth her sustained attention. Keep it that way," Davis advised. "The fewer connections between you, the better." That afternoon, Brooke sat in AP English, 3 rows behind Liv, perfectly positioned to observe both her target and the classroom door. The teacher was discussing The Great Gatsby when she felt something hit the back of her head. A wadded paper ball bounced onto her desk. She didn't need to open it to know it contained something nasty, but she did anyway, keeping her expression carefully blank as she read the crude drawing and accompanying text. "Freak alert! Watch out for the new weirdo!" From across the room, Rachel smirked, nudging Jade, who was already recording Brooke's reaction on her phone. Brooke did what her cover demanded, flushed red, hunched her shoulders, and quickly stuffed the paper into her backpack. The rest of the day passed in similar fashion. A foot extended to trip her in the hallway. Whispers that stopped when she approached. A mysterious substance smeared on her locker handle that turned out to be hand sanitizer mixed with glitter, harmless but humiliating as it stuck to her hands through 2 class periods. By the time the final bell rang, Brooke had cemented her position at the bottom of Hollowbrook's social hierarchy, which was precisely according to plan. As she shadowed Liv to the parking lot, maintaining a careful distance, her handler's voice came through the comm again. "Initial assessment of threat level?" Brooke watched as Liv climbed into the Honda, laughing at something her friend said. The perimeter security team, disguised as parents and school staff, maintained their positions around the campus. Nothing suspicious had triggered her finely tuned radar. "Current threat level minimal," she reported quietly, pretending to check her phone. "But I don't like how exposed she is during transition periods. Too many access points, too many unknown variables." "Noted. Continue surveillance protocol. Daily reports at 2,200 hours." As Brooke walked toward her own transportation, a deliberately unimpressive used bicycle that fit her cover, she spotted Rachel and her friends by the parking lot entrance, watching her. Rachel whispered something that made the others laugh, their eyes never leaving Brooke. For a split second, something tightened in Brooke's chest, an echo of another girl in another time, before she'd become what she was now. She pushed it away immediately. This wasn't personal. Nothing about this assignment was personal. Rachel Whitmore was just another variable in the mission, a minor inconvenience at worst. What mattered was keeping Liv Carter safe from the very real dangers her father's wealth and position had brought into her life. Dangers that wouldn't announce themselves with paper balls and mean gossip, but with guns and professional kidnappers. And when those dangers finally showed themselves, as Brooke knew with absolute certainty they would, Rachel Whitmore and her petty cruelty would be the least of anyone's concerns. Brooke mounted her bicycle and pedaled away from Hollowbrook High, already planning tomorrow's surveillance routes in her head. Day 1 was complete. The mission had begun. By Friday of her first week at Hollowbrook High, Brooke had settled into a routine. Wake at 5 a.m. for training. Survey the school perimeter before classes. Shadow Liv while maintaining distance. Send encrypted reports to Agent Davis nightly. Sleep for exactly 6 hours. Repeat. What wasn't routine were Rachel Whitmore's increasingly creative torments. "Oops. So clumsy of me," Rachel said with mock sincerity as she accidentally knocked Brooke's lunch tray from her hands, sending spaghetti splattering across the cafeteria floor. The surrounding tables erupted in laughter. Brooke's training had prepared her for torture at the hands of enemy combatants. It hadn't prepared her for the psychological warfare waged by teenage girls. Copy the incident report when you get a chance, Davis said through her earpiece. Carter wants regular updates on your cover status. Copy that, Brooke whispered as she knelt to clean up the mess, painfully aware of Liv watching from across the cafeteria with a mixture of pity and discomfort. Each day brought new humiliations. Her locker plastered with unflattering photoshopped images. Tyler Johnson tripping her in the hallway. A fake social media profile appearing in her name, filled with pathetic pleas for friendship. Through it all, Brooke maintained her cover flawlessly. She ducked her head. She mumbled apologies. She blinked back fake tears when necessary. She became exactly what the mission required, invisible except as an object of ridicule. It was working perfectly until Madison Reynolds' house party Friday night. Target is attending a social gathering, Brooke reported, watching from her surveillance position as Liv piled into a car with friends. Request permission to follow. Granted, Davis replied. But maintain distance protocol. House parties are unpredictable environments. Unpredictable was an understatement. The Reynolds home was packed with teenagers, the music too loud, the lighting too dim, and alcohol flowing freely. For a security professional, it was a nightmare scenario. Brooke positioned herself in a corner with clear sidelines to both Liv and the nearest exits, nursing a cup of water while pretending to check her phone. Her target seemed to be engaging in normal teenage behavior, dancing with friends, completely unaware of the Vetrov organization's interest in her as leverage against her father. Well, look who decided to show up. Rachel's voice cut through the music, flanked by Mackenzie, Jade, and Tyler, all wearing identical expressions of malicious anticipation. I don't want any trouble, Brooke said quietly, trying to step away, but finding her path blocked by Tyler's imposing frame. That's too bad, Rachel replied, moving closer. Because trouble definitely wants you. Brooke's training kicked in automatically. 5 hostels. Multiple exit paths, all requiring physical engagement to access. Civilians present. Cover identity at risk. Maintain cover, Mitchell, Davis warned in her ear. Primary objective is target security. Rachel was still advancing, her perfect features twisted into a sneer. Nobody invited you here. This party is for people who actually matter. I'll leave, Brooke offered, keeping her voice steady despite the anger burning in her chest, not at Rachel, but at the situation requiring her to endure this treatment when she could end it in seconds. Oh, I don't think so, Rachel said, her smile sharpening. Not until we've properly welcomed you to Hollowbrook. With deliberate slowness, she raised her cup and tipped it forward, the red liquid splashing down the front of Brooke's white blouse. The cold shock made Brooke inhale sharply. Phones appeared, recording the moment. Through a gap in the crowd, Brooke could see Liv watching with wide eyes. For a dangerous second, Brooke's body tensed, muscle memory preparing to neutralize the threat. She could end this, all of it, with 3 precisely placed strikes. Rachel would never see it coming. Stand down, Mitchell, Davis ordered sharply. That's an order. The moment passed. Brooke forced her shoulders to slump, her eyes to fill with tears, then pushed past Rachel, ignoring the laughter that followed her as she fled to the bathroom. Inside, she assessed the damage. The beer had soaked through her shirt, making the fabric cling to the thin Kevlar vest beneath, a potentially serious compromise if anyone noticed. The bathroom door opened, and Brooke tensed again, only to find Liv Carter standing there, offering paper towels. Here, Liv said awkwardly. Rachel can be pretty awful. Brooke accepted them silently, dabbing at her shirt while maintaining her dejected expression. This was the closest contact she'd had with her target, dangerous territory. Thanks, she mumbled, keeping her eyes down. Liv leaned against the sink. You know, it might help if you stood up for yourself. That's the only language bullies understand. The irony was almost enough to make Brooke laugh. If only this girl knew what standing up would actually look like. I'm fine, Brooke said quietly. I just want to be left alone. That's not how high school works, Liv sighed. Look, I could talk to Rachel if you want. We're not exactly friends, but she might back off if... No, Brooke said too forcefully. The last thing she needed was a connection between herself and her target. I mean, that would just make it worse. But thanks. Liv studied her for another moment, then shrugged. Your call. But if you ever need someone to sit with at lunch or whatever. She left the offer hanging. I appreciate it, Brooke said, not committing. As Liv left, Brooke released a controlled breath. Target made direct contact, she reported quietly. Offering social assistance. Maintain distance, Davis replied immediately. We can't risk compromising your position if an extraction becomes necessary. Copy that. Brooke gave herself exactly 60 seconds to compose herself, then stepped out of the bathroom, resuming her surveillance position. The beer on her shirt was drying, leaving a sticky reminder of her vulnerability. As she watched Rachel holding court by the drinks table, laughing and gesturing in her direction, one thing became crystal clear. This was going to get worse before it got better. And when it did, maintaining her cover might become impossible. Monday morning arrived with a thin layer of October fog blanketing Hollowbrook High. Brooke arrived earlier than usual, her internal alarms triggered by something she couldn't quite identify. Call it instinct, call it professional paranoia, either way, she'd learned never to ignore it. She circled the school perimeter twice, cataloging every detail that didn't match her mental blueprint. A maintenance van parked where usually there were only faculty cars. A different security guard at the east entrance. Small things, perhaps meaningless, or perhaps not. Mitchell, status report. Davis's voice came through her earpiece as she positioned herself near the front entrance, watching students arrive. Something's off, she replied quietly. No confirmation yet, but... She stopped mid-sentence, her attention caught by a black sedan with tinted windows parked across the street. The vehicle itself wasn't unusual, but the way it was positioned, perfect sideline to the school entrance, engine likely still running based on the faint exhaust visible in the cold air, triggered every warning bell in her head. Possible surveillance vehicle on the east perimeter, she reported, casually taking out her phone to snap a photo while pretending to check messages. Black Chrysler 300, no visible plates from my position. Copy that, Davis responded. Sending a team to investigate. Maintain your position. The black sedan remained for exactly 27 minutes, long enough to observe the arrival of most students, including Liv Carter, before pulling away with a deliberate casualness that only heightened Brooke's suspicions. Throughout the school day, Brooke found herself splitting her attention between her usual surveillance of Liv and monitoring for other anomalies. She spotted the second one during third period, a new janitor mopping the hallway outside Liv's calculus class, paying just a little too much attention to the classroom door, his movements too precise for someone who supposedly pushed a mop for a living. New maintenance staff, she whispered during a bathroom break. Male, approximately 5 feet 11 inches, athletic build, scar on right forearm consistent with knife wound. Showing suspicious interest in third-floor hallway, particularly near target's classroom. By lunchtime, Brooke's nerves were at combat readiness. The black sedan had returned, now parked across from the athletic fields where Liv's gym class would be heading in 40 minutes. The new janitor had, coincidentally, been assigned to clean the cafeteria during Liv's lunch period. And a new face, a supposed substitute teacher who hadn't actually entered any classrooms, was making a show of studying a school map near the main office. Mitchell, we need to talk, Davis said suddenly in her ear. Utility closet, west hallway. Now. Brooke slipped away, making sure no one, particularly Rachel's crew, who'd been oddly subdued today, was watching. Inside the closet, she found a secure tablet had been left for her, its screen displaying a message from Davis. Intel update, Vetrov operation accelerating. 3 known operatives identified within school perimeter. Extraction specialists, former Russian Spetsnaz. Considered armed and highly dangerous. Below the message were surveillance photos matching the janitor and substitute she'd already flagged, plus a third man she hadn't seen yet. All three had extensive military backgrounds and known connections to the Vetrov organization. "Recommend immediate extraction of the target," Brooke said, her voice calm despite the adrenaline beginning to course through her system. "Negative," Davis replied. "Carter still believes maintaining normalcy is priority. Your orders are to continue close protection while we work on identifying all threat vectors." "Sir, with respect, I'm operating with significant constraints. My cover identity limits my ability to intervene effectively." "Your cover is what keeps you close to her," Davis countered. "Intelligence indicates they're planning something soon, possibly within the next 48 hours. Stay sharp, Mitchell." As Brooke exited the closet, the school seemed transformed in her eyes. What had been merely a backdrop for teenage drama now revealed itself as a tactical nightmare. Too many points of entry, too many civilians, too many blind spots where a professional extraction team could operate. Walking back toward the cafeteria, her heightened awareness picked up the sudden tension before she actually saw its cause. Rachel Whitmore stood in the middle of the hallway, phone in hand, a malicious smile spreading across her face as she spotted Brooke. "There she is!" Rachel called out, loud enough to draw attention from nearby students. "The freak who spends all her time hiding in closets." Brooke felt a chill that had nothing to do with Rachel's taunting. How long had the girl been watching her? Had she seen the tablet? Heard anything? Got nothing to say? Rachel pressed, sauntering closer, Jade and Mackenzie flanking her like always. "What were you doing in there anyway? Practicing how to be even weirder?" "Leave me alone, Rachel," Brooke said quietly, trying to move past them. Her mind was racing with far more important concerns than teenage bullying. Rachel stepped directly into her path. "We're not done with you yet. In fact, we've got something special planned for after school today." She glanced at her friends, who snickered in anticipation. "Meet us at the gym. Girls' locker room. 3:30, don't be late." "I'm busy," Brooke replied, scanning the cafeteria beyond them. Where was Liv? The janitor was still there, but her target was nowhere in sight. "Wasn't a request," Rachel said, her voice hardening. "Be there, or Tyler starts sharing those pictures we made of you all over social media. Your choice." Before Brooke could respond, her phone vibrated with a specific pattern, the emergency signal from Davis. Simultaneously, she spotted Liv through the cafeteria windows, heading toward the parking lot alone, looking at her phone with a confused expression. And there, by the east exit, the substitute teacher was moving in the same direction. "Emergency extraction protocol initiated," Davis's voice cut through her earpiece. "Unknown number contacted target claiming to be her father's security team. Requesting immediate meet in east parking lot." Brooke's training took over instantly. "On it," she muttered, all thoughts of Rachel forgotten as she calculated the fastest route to intercept Liv before she reached the parking lot. "Hey! I'm talking to you!" Rachel grabbed Brooke's arm, nails digging in. For the first time, Brooke looked directly into Rachel's eyes, dropping her meek persona for just a second. What Rachel saw there made her unconsciously step back, her grip loosening. "Not now," Brooke said, her voice suddenly different, authoritative, cold. Then she was gone, pushing past the stunned girls and moving with purpose toward the east exit. Behind her, Rachel stood frozen, a chill running down her spine as she whispered to her friends. "Did you see that? What the hell was that?" But Brooke was already focused on the real threat, moving swiftly through the hallways, her cover identity suddenly the least of her concerns. The hunt had begun. Brooke reached the east exit just in time to see Liv hesitating at the edge of the parking lot. The janitor was approaching from one direction while the substitute teacher circled around toward the black sedan, which had reappeared and was now idling with its passenger door slightly ajar. "Davis, I need backup," Brooke whispered into her comm. "Target is surrounded. 2 hostiles in sight, possibly more in the vehicle. Security team is 3 minutes out," came the tense reply. "Delay extraction if possible without compromising your cover." Brooke made a split-second decision. Keeping to the shadows along the building, she moved quickly to position herself behind a nearby dumpster. From there, she pulled out her phone and dialed Liv's number, which she'd memorized from her briefing materials but never used. Liv answered on the second ring, looking confused as she checked her phone. "Hello? Liv, this is your father's actual security team," Brooke said, her voice deliberately pitched lower than usual. "The men approaching you are imposters. Return to the building immediately. Use the west entrance." "What? Who is?" "Now, Liv. Your father's password is Sunflower 1984. Confirm and move." The password, established by Carter's security team for emergency verification, did its job. Liv's eyes widened in recognition, and she immediately turned, hurrying back toward the school but veering toward the west side as instructed. The janitor and substitute exchanged quick glances before following, but their delay gave Liv enough time to re-enter the building safely. Brooke watched them speak briefly to the sedan's driver before all three disappeared from view, likely repositioning for another attempt. "Target is secure for now," Brooke reported. "Hostiles retreating but still on premises. They'll try again." "Good work, Mitchell. Maintain surveillance until our team arrives. Your priority is keeping the target in public areas with witnesses." Brooke slipped back into the building through a side entrance, quickly locating Liv in the main hallway surrounded by friends, safety in numbers for the moment. The crisis had been temporarily averted, but Brooke's senses remained on high alert. The Vetrov operatives wouldn't abandon their mission so easily. Her watch showed 3:25 p.m. 5 minutes until Rachel's ultimatum. Under normal circumstances, Brooke would have simply ignored the bullies' trap. But the situation had evolved. The Vetrov team had seen their first attempt fail, which meant they'd be looking for her, the unknown person who had warned their target. If they connected her to Liv, her cover would be blown from both directions. Better to hide in plain sight, exactly where someone like her cover identity would be, getting bullied in the girls' locker room. Changing positions, she murmured into her calm. "Target is with friends in main hallway. I'll maintain visual from alternate location." Confirmed. Team ETA now 5 minutes. Delay in traffic. At exactly 3:30, Brooke pushed open the door to the girls' locker room. As expected, Rachel and her crew were waiting, along with 3 other girls Brooke recognized as part of Rachel's extended social circle. The lights were dimmed, and Tyler stood near the back wall, a male student in the girls' locker room, signaling just how confident they were about not getting caught. "Look who decided to show up after all," Rachel said, slow clapping with exaggerated mockery. "I honestly didn't think you had the guts." Brooke scanned the room quickly. 8 hostiles. Main exit now blocked by Mackenzie. Secondary exit through Coach's office visible but likely locked. Multiple improvised weapons available, sports equipment, locks, even the heavy wooden benches. No immediate signs of recording devices, but Jade was definitely hiding her phone behind her back. "What do you want, Rachel?" Brooke asked, maintaining her meek persona while positioning herself to keep both exits in her peripheral vision. Rachel circled her slowly. "What I want is to understand why you're so pathetic. Why you never fight back. It's almost like you're not even human." "I just want to get through high school," Brooke replied, eyes downcast though she tracked every movement in the room. "That's the problem," Rachel said, her voice hardening. "You don't get to decide how your time here goes." "I do." She nodded to Tyler, who stepped forward, cracking his knuckles theatrically. "Hold her," Rachel commanded. 2 girls moved to grab Brooke's arms. She allowed it, though every muscle in her body screamed to counter. This was still manageable, painful for her cover identity but not life-threatening. She could endure it until the security team arrived and neutralized the real threat outside. Then her earpiece crackled urgently. "Mitchell, abort! Vetrov operatives have breached the building. They're armed. West corridor moving fast. Target location compromised. Repeat, target location compromised." Everything changed in that instant. Liv was in imminent danger, and Brooke was trapped in a locker room playing high school drama games. Tyler stepped closer, fist clenched. "This won't hurt much," he sneered. The girls tightened their grip on Brooke's arms, and Rachel's smile turned vicious. "Maybe after this you'll learn your—" Tyler threw the first punch, aiming for Brooke's stomach. Time seemed to slow. In that moment, Brooke made her decision. Cover be damned. Liv's life was at stake. Tyler's fist never connected. With a movement too fast for anyone to follow, Brooke shifted 2 inches to the side. The punch whistled past her. In the same fluid motion, she broke free from both girls holding her by simply rolling her shoulders and applying precise pressure to their fingers. Not enough to hurt them, just enough to make them let go. "What the?" Tyler barely got the words out before Brooke's palm struck his chest with carefully calibrated force, sending him stumbling backward into the lockers with a loud crash. Complete silence fell over the locker room. Every face registered pure shock. "Get her!" Rachel finally shrieked. Mackenzie lunged forward. Brooke sidestepped effortlessly, using the girl's momentum to send her tumbling into Rachel. Both crashed to the floor in an ungraceful heap. Another girl rushed forward. Brooke didn't even look as she pivoted, letting the attacker's charge carry her harmlessly past and into a bench. In less than 10 seconds, all of Rachel's group were either on the floor or backed against the lockers, none seriously hurt, but all staring at Brooke with dawning horror. "What are you?" Rachel whispered, scrambling backward along the floor. The emergency signal from Brooke's phone cut through the stunned silence. 3 short vibrations, 1 long. The extraction team had failed to reach Liv in time. "We're done here," Brooke said, her voice completely transformed, authoritative, cold, professional. Gone was any trace of the meek girl they'd been tormenting for weeks. With 2 precise strikes, she disabled the locked door and was gone, leaving behind 8 shell-shocked teenagers who couldn't process what they'd just witnessed. The hunt had now become a rescue mission, and Brooke was finally unleashed. Brooke sprinted through the hallways, the shocked faces of students she passed nothing but a blur. Her mind had shifted completely into combat mode, processing information with machine-like efficiency. The soft-spoken, hunched-over girl who flinched at loud noises was gone. In her place moved a weapon, precise, focused, and deadly. "Davis, location of target?" she demanded into her comm, no longer caring who heard her. "West corridor, near the gymnasium. 3 hostiles have isolated her from other students. Armed with concealed weapons. Security team is pinned down in the parking lot. They brought reinforcements." Brooke calculated routes in her head, discarding 2 before settling on the fastest path through the science wing. As she rounded the corner, she spotted a group of freshmen watching with wide eyes. "Fire in the east wing," she told them with calm authority. "Pull the alarm and evacuate." They hesitated only a moment before one boy yanked down the nearest fire alarm. Sirens wailed throughout the building, and the automated announcement system directed all students to exit immediately. Perfect. The crowds of evacuating students would create chaos, advantageous for her approach, disadvantageous for the extraction team trying to remove Liv inconspicuously. The hallways flooded with students and teachers moving toward exits, creating a tide Brooke navigated against with practiced ease. Through gaps in the crowd, she caught glimpses of the scene unfolding ahead, Liv being escorted toward a side exit by a man in a security uniform, not one of her father's team, while the janitor and substitute flanked them, scanning for threats. "I have visual," Brooke reported. "They're using the evacuation as cover. Moving target toward east service entrance. 3 hostiles confirmed." She had seconds to act before they reached the door. Once outside, a vehicle would be waiting, and Liv would disappear. Brooke's gaze caught on the fire extinguisher mounted on the wall ahead. Without breaking stride, she smashed the glass case with her elbow, pulled out the extinguisher, and discharged it toward the ceiling. White chemical powder filled the air, creating instant confusion as students scurried away from the cloud. Through the haze, Brooke moved like a ghost, closing the distance to the extraction team. The janitor spotted her first, his eyes widening in recognition from their earlier encounter. He reached into his jacket, but Brooke was already in motion. Her first strike caught him under the chin, snapping his head back. The second, a precise hit to his solar plexus, doubled him over. The third swept his legs from under him. He hit the floor, unconscious, before he'd even fully registered her attack. The substitute turned, drawing a concealed weapon from his ankle holster. Brooke closed the distance before he could aim, deflecting his arm upward. The gun discharged into the ceiling, causing panic screams from the few remaining students. With brutal efficiency, Brooke disarmed him, using his own momentum to slam him face first into the wall. The third man, the fake security officer, now had a firm grip on Liv, a knife pressed against her side. "Stop right there," he ordered, his accent faintly Eastern European. "One more step and she bleeds." Brooke froze, calculating options. The remaining students had fled at the sound of gunfire. The hallway was now empty except for the four of them. 15 feet separated her from Liv and her captor. The knife was professional grade, positioned precisely to cause maximal damage with minimal effort. "Let her go," Brooke said, her voice calm. "Your extraction has failed. Security team is already on premises. You have no exit." The man smiled coldly. "I always have exit. Now you will step aside, or I demonstrate how quickly girl can die." Liv's eyes were wide with fear, but Brooke noticed something else there: calculation. The girl wasn't just a passive victim, she was looking for an opportunity. Brooke gave a slight nod, almost imperceptible, and Liv understood. "Fine," Brooke said, slowly raising her hands and taking a deliberate step back. "Take her. But the boss wants me to deliver a message to Vetrov first." The kidnapper's eyes narrowed at the mention of his employer. "What message?" "This one." In that split second of distraction, Liv drove her elbow back into her captor's ribs, not enough to disable him, but enough to disrupt his stance. The knife wavered just half an inch from her side. It was all Brooke needed. She moved with blinding speed, closing the distance in a heartbeat. Her first strike targeted the man's wrist, forcing the knife away from Liv. Her second hit the nerve bundle in his elbow, causing his fingers to spasm open and drop the weapon. The third, a precise strike to his temple, dropped him unconscious to the floor. The entire exchange took less than 3 seconds. Liv stumbled away, her back hitting the lockers as she stared at Brooke with a mixture of shock, confusion, and dawning realization. "You," she whispered. "You're not. What are you?" Before Brooke could answer, the doors at the end of the hallway burst open and the real security team rushed in, weapons drawn, led by Agent Davis himself. "Target secured," Brooke reported professionally, all pretense gone. 3 hostiles neutralized. Building needs full sweep for additional threats. Davis nodded, directing his team to secure the unconscious kidnappers. He turned to Liv, who was still staring at Brooke in disbelief. "Ms. Carter, are you injured?" he asked. Liv shook her head slowly, her eyes never leaving Brooke. "Who is she?" "Really?" Davis sighed, holstering his weapon. "This is Brooke Mitchell. She's a specialized security operative assigned by your father to protect you undercover after we received credible death threats against your family." "Undercover," Liv repeated, the pieces finally clicking into place. "So all this time, when Rachel and everyone were..." Her voice trailed off as the implications hit her. "My assignment was to remain invisible while keeping you safe," Brooke explained, her voice now carrying a quiet authority that bore no resemblance to her former meek tones. "The most effective cover was to become someone no one would notice or take seriously. But they were horrible to you," Liv said. "For weeks. And you just took it." Brooke shrugged. "The mission was to protect you, not my feelings." A commotion at the end of the hallway drew their attention. Rachel Whitmore stood frozen, flanked by Mackenzie and Tyler, all 3 staring at the unconscious kidnappers, the armed security team, and most of all, at Brooke, the girl they tormented for weeks who now stood tall and confident amid the chaos she'd clearly controlled. "Is that what's happening?" Rachel stammered, her face pale. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more secure," Davis suggested, eyeing the newcomers with professional suspicion. As Brooke escorted Liv toward the exit, they passed the shell-shocked bullies. Rachel's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "For what it's worth," Liv said to her, "you picked the worst possible person to mess with." The doors closed behind them, leaving Rachel and her friends to reckon with the terrifying truth. They had spent weeks tormenting someone who could have ended them without breaking a sweat, someone who had chosen, for reasons they couldn't begin to comprehend, not to fight back. Until today. 1 week after what the local news diplomatically called an attempted abduction thwarted by private security, Brooke Mitchell walked through the main entrance of Hollowbrook High, no longer hunched or hiding behind oversized glasses. Her stride was confident but measured, her eyes constantly scanning her surroundings, old habits that would never fade, regardless of how secure the environment seemed. Students parted before her like water around a stone, conversations dropping to whispers as she passed. The official story, carefully crafted by James Carter's PR team, was that Brooke was a specially trained personal security consultant hired to protect Liv after concerning incidents. The truth, that she was essentially a covert operative who had been planted in the school, remained classified, known only to a select few. But what everyone did know was that quiet, awkward Brooke had single-handedly taken down 3 armed men to save Liv Carter. And that before doing so, she had effortlessly dismantled Rachel Whitmore's entire crew without breaking a sweat. Speaking of Rachel, Brooke spotted her by the lockers, flanked as always by Mackenzie and Jade. The moment their eyes met, Rachel's face drained of color. She immediately looked down, suddenly fascinated by the contents of her locker. Beside her, Mackenzie shifted uncomfortably from foot to foot, while Jade seemed to be contemplating whether the nearest exit was close enough to make a run for it. Brooke could have enjoyed their discomfort, perhaps even part of her did, but mostly she viewed it as a tactical assessment. Fear was a natural response to having one's worldview shattered. These girls had built their identity around being at the top of a social hierarchy, only to discover that someone they'd dismissed as weak could have destroyed them at any moment. Tyler was a different story. He'd been avoiding school entirely since the incident, calling in sick 4 days straight. The rumor was that he'd had nightmares every night since the locker room, waking up in cold sweats convinced that Brooke was standing over his bed. As Brooke approached Liv's locker, she noted how conversations shifted from fearful whispers to eager speculation. Liv had become even more popular following the incident. Surviving a kidnapping attempt apparently did wonders for one's social status. But the nature of her relationship with Brooke remained the source of intense curiosity. "Morning," Liv said, smiling as Brooke approached. "Did you finish the calc homework? I got stuck on number 7. This was their new normal. Brooke still protecting Liv, but now doing so openly, integrating into her life rather than shadowing from a distance. James Carter had insisted on maintaining the security detail, but with modifications to allow his daughter some semblance of normal teenage life. "I've got the solution," Brooke replied, pulling out her notebook. The academic work was trivially easy for her, but it provided natural cover for their continued association. As they walked toward first period, Emma, one of Rachel's former satellites who had objected to the locker room plan, approached tentatively. Brooke? I was wondering." She glanced around nervously. "Some of us were talking about starting a self-defense club. For girls. And we thought maybe you could teach us. If that's allowed?" Brooke considered the request. Davis had actually suggested something similar as a way to normalize her presence and skills. "I'll think about it," she replied, not unkindly. Emma beamed, scurrying away to report back to her friends, who were watching from a safe distance. "You should do it," Liv said as they continued walking. "It might help people see you as something other than terrifying." "Is that how you see me?" Brooke asked, genuinely curious. Their relationship had evolved rapidly over the past week, not quite friendship, but something more complex than handler and protectee. Liv considered this. "At first I was just shocked. Then angry that you'd been lying the whole time." She paused at the classroom door. "But now I think I understand better. You were doing your job. Protecting me, even when it meant letting yourself become a target. It wasn't personal. Brooke said, though even to her own ears the words sounded hollow. Wasn't it? Even a little? Liv challenged. I saw your face when you took down those men. That wasn't just professional duty. Before Brooke could respond, Rachel appeared at the far end of the hallway. For a moment, their eyes met again. But instead of looking away immediately, Rachel gave a small, hesitant nod, not quite an apology, but an acknowledgement, perhaps the beginning of something like respect. Brooke nodded back, a simple gesture that nevertheless caused visible relief to wash over Rachel's face. You could destroy her socially now, you know, Liv observed quietly. One word from you, and her reign is over. That's not my mission, Brooke replied. What is your mission now? Since everyone knows who you are. Brooke considered this as they entered the classroom. Her cover was blown, yes, but the core objective remained unchanged: protect Liv Carter. The methods would be different, the dynamics more complicated, but the purpose was still clear. Adapt. Evolve. Protect, she said finally. Same as always. After class, they passed the bulletin board where someone had anonymously posted a grainy cell phone photo taken during the incident. It showed Brooke in mid-action, her form perfect as she neutralized one of the kidnappers. Beneath it, someone had scrawled, "Don't judge a book by its cover." Around the image, students had added their own comments. She's not normal. Did you see what she did to Tyler? No one should mess with her. Scariest girl in school. And finally, in different handwriting, bravest girl in school. Brooke didn't react to the makeshift shrine, but something in her shifted subtly. For weeks, she had been invisible except as an object of ridicule. Now she was seen, perhaps feared, perhaps admired, but undeniably seen. As she and Liv walked toward their next class, Brooke felt her phone vibrate. A message from Davis. New intelligence suggests Vetrov organization has backed off. Target risk assessment downgraded to moderate. Liv noticed her expression. Good news? The immediate threat has passed. Brooke confirmed. But I'm not going anywhere. Good, Liv said with unexpected firmness. I've gotten used to having you around. For the first time since arriving at Hollowbrook High, Brooke allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Her mission had changed, evolved into something more complex than simple protection. Something that, despite all her training and experience, felt surprisingly unfamiliar. Something almost like belonging. As they rounded the corner, Rachel and her diminished court stepped aside, conversations faltering. The fear in their eyes was still there, but now tinged with something else, a grudging respect for the girl who had endured their worst and emerged stronger than they could have imagined. Brooke Mitchell, no longer pretending to be invisible, walked tall through the hallways of Hollowbrook High, her true identity finally revealed. And no one dared call her a freak again.